socialism.
Here we go. We're recording. We're professionals.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week, we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elsevier, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all the way too. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to a very witchy episode of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 256, recorded Sunday, March 1st, 2020. Tonight, we're talking about another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by Matt G. The movie is Witchboard from 1986. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Oregon, we got our boy Randy Gandy G-Lanny. What's up, man?
What's good, baby? How's it
You're
going?
good. You
Thanks,
are
man.
good.
Whoa.
In my hood.
The affirmations are coming out, baby.
Mm-hmm. Wearing the plaid, looking good.
You
Hell
know,
yeah.
getting a lot of stares with these plaid shirts these days.
That's
The
what I heard.
Oregonians are all about my plaid bearish demeanor.
Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Corona Stains. What's up?
What up? It's your boy, Quarantine Stains, locked up over here.
Quarantine stains, man, they don't come out easy.
Dude, Quarantine Stains.
Corn.
I just turned 20. Quarantine.
Teenage
Quarantine.
corn.
Yeah. You listen to a lot.
Teenage corn.
You listen to a lot of new metal during your quarantine. Is that what's going on?
Is Issues is your favorite record, is what you're telling me?
Dude, that's the good one. Issues. God damn, you're so old.
I'm so old, girl.
You are so old.
Get out of here.
Dude,
it's
I'm
time we break up this facade of you being 20. You're the oldest one on the show.
This is-
Dude, I'm quarantined. What are you talking about?
Ooh,
You fucking get up. Come on, get down with the sickness. Yes. Big thanks to Matt, by the way.
Yeah,
now
thanks,
that we're
Matt.
talking about,
Thank you,
the
Matt.
actual show.
Corn
Thanks
derailed
for,
us.
thanks for supporting us on Patreon, Matt, and choosing this dope-ass movie for us to talk about. But before we get into it, let's tackle some housekeeping really quickly. So the March poll pick has officially ended. The winner is Creature from the Black Rangoon.
Whoa.
So we'll be talking about that here in the next few weeks.
Whoa,
And,
Bob, that means we got a new poll pickup. It's a new month.
Yes, that's precisely what that means. The
Tell
April
me about it.
poll pick. April poll pick is posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this April. The theme for April is going to be alien invasion.
Whoa, keeping the sci-fi going.
Yeah, keeping that train rolling. The 3 movies you can vote between are going to be Slither, Alien, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
All right.
It's the
I know
70s
it's
edition, yes?
Yeah, the 70s invasion.
not the good one.
Not the good, the bad one. The
Okay.
horrible.
Yes.
The one that nobody ever wants to see
That's,
or talk about.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
I know it's the first day of March, but Bob, how those numbers looking so far? Got any votes?
I don't know. Yeah, there was like literally 1 vote when I looked this morning because
Oh, somebody
the
got
poll had been up
100%.
for an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of
Yeah.
our movies is riding undefeated right now.
I think it was for Alien, I think. But,
Wow.
honestly, I talk about all of those movies. They're all, there's a lot to tackle there. So
Yeah.
we're all going to win.
I can't believe
regardless.
we haven't covered any of those films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
It's a
are
long time coming
failing
for
as a
some of them.
podcast.
And as people.
We're just
Damn.
Yep.
failures.
I thought we were
Welcome
doing
to
all right.
Failure Cast. The
Nope.
affirmations are done.
If you're
Well,
fine with
let's just-
mediocrity, Bob, then yes.
Let's all wallow in our own self-pity. That sounds like fun. How about 2 hours of that, everybody?
I honestly can't think of a better use of my time.
In other Patreon news, we got to give a big shout out to a brand new Patreon supporter, Bo J. Thank you for supporting us on the Patreon.
Wait,
And
who?
of course, Bo J.
Does it say where he's from?
Yeah, it does, but I don't have it in front of me, so I
Okay.
cannot tell you. And also, I wouldn't tell that on the show because that's weird.
Well, I
He's
mean,
from
sometimes you say
123
they're
Fake
from.
Street.
Well, no, I'm
That's
just
true.
saying. Sometimes you say, "Oh, from Norway" or something. Like I didn't know.
That's true.
Come on, Bob. Jesus.
Bo's precise
Jesus
mailing
Christ.
address is 6969
Briarwood
Soju
Road?
Stains Lane. No,
So-
no, it's not. As is tradition, you got me all fucked up. As is tradition on our show, we got to give you the old straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Bo.
It's not working. There we go.
Slap my ass!
Yes.
Thank
You,
Bo.
Bo.
Thanks, Bo.
That is all we got on Patreon. What you got, Justin?
Oh God. Tomorrow is the first Tuesday of the month. You know what that means. It's Top 5 Tuesday. Got a new YouTube video dropping for you. straightchilling.com/Straight Chilling Podcast. So you can check that out, dropping tomorrow. And let's see, it's a new month. I'll be playing a new Ouija game. Last year, I desperately tried to play one of my favorite games of all time, BioShock, but since I was using the Xbox app, it would not let me stream BioShock. It just like kept blocking it out or whatever. But I have a new setup now, so fuck the man. I'm streaming BioShock on Twitch.
Oh,
So,
shit.
if you like horror video
Damn.
games, you can watch at twitch.com/Straight Chillin' Podcast. I'm gonna play some BioShock, bitches.
You going to get erected?
I'm going to
Start
get
going.
erected.
You're going.
Live
going.
on Twitch.
Live. I'm going to get erected. So if that's what
Cool.
you're into, tune in.
Sweet. Anything else, man?
I don't think so, man. We usually have our house is usually
Yeah.
filthy.
That bracket's done, and we can finally
I
fucking
know. Breathe easy.
see the floor of the fucking house
We can rest on our laurels now.
Yeah.
Finally.
and sleep well.
Sleep. Yeah, so that's all we got on the housekeeping. All right.
Good.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Ray, what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? Not a ton, but I did manage to catch a couple of movies I had not seen before. First of all was Invisible Man, which comments forthcoming in an upcoming episode. I watched the movie Akira for the first time. You guys familiar with Akira, the anime?
Yeah.
Heard of it, yeah.
It's pretty well known
It's from
shit.
the 80s,
So
right?
Yeah, or maybe late 70s. No, yeah, it's 80s. It's 80s. I'm pretty late to the party on that one. I've been meaning to watch it for
What?
years, but I enjoed it. I think it's
Yeah.
like a big hot take. It was good.
What,
So,
Randy?
yeah, I
this
know.
classic anime? That's
Yeah,
good?
this beloved
Anime.
fucking cult classic anime.
You
Shades
like
of
anime,
anime?
Randy?
Anime.
I like anime and manga.
It's a long ass A. Manga.
Manga.
Damn.
And then the last thing I watched was a Randy Quaid classic by the name of Kingpin. You guys ever seen Kingpin?
Yes,
No.
With what's that fucker's name? He's not even the lead. Randy Quaid's in it, and then goddamn, I have to look it up. Can't think of this fucker's name. But it's about bowling. It's a slapstick comedy. Let me see. Fucking pull this up. Woody Harrelson. Couldn't think of it. It's Woody fucking Harrelson plays the lead. It's like a traveling comedy. Randy Quaid plays a Amish kid who's clearly not a kid and definitely in his like 40s already.
Yeah.
And he's an excellent bowler somehow, and he's taken on this trip to a bowling championship against The villain is Bill Murray, and yeah, it's fucking dumb. It's really, really fucking dumb. It's a Farrelly Brothers movie, so it's in that realm. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's definitely a good watch when you are imbibing in very legal weed.
Uh-huh. You sure it's
yeah.
legal?
Very
Extra
legal.
Okay.
Anything with Woody Harrelson's going to be an okay weed watch, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think he chooses movies that way. So yeah, that was pretty much it for me.
Cool. Juice, what have you been watching?
I also watched The Invisible Man, which we will be covering next week, I believe. Let's see. Invisible Man. I finished up Castlevania again, getting ready. I think this Friday, Castlevania Season 3 will be popping up on Netflix. So I'm excited for that. So I rewatched Season 1 and 2. If you haven't seen those, I recommend you check them out. Season 1's only 4 episodes, and all the episodes are less than 30 minutes. They're like around 25 or something. It's really fucking good series. So that's coming out. And a couple of episodes ago, one of our sci-fi ones, it was either the one with the bats from outer space, Life Force, or the one we covered right after that one, which was another sci-fi, which I can't remember what it was right now. But one sci-fi show we recently covered reminded me of that Love, Death, Robots show that was on Netflix. It was essentially just like this huge like anthology where they just had a bunch of these animated shorts that were usually around like 15 minutes long. And I had watched it when it came out last year and enjoyed most of the segments, but there was one that was my favorite that was like very like space horror. And that episode reminded me of it. So I went back and I started like watching. I think I've rewatched almost all of them. And that, man, there's some good horror shit in that series.
Real good
Good horse shit.
Good
The
horse
best
shit.
horse shit.
Yeah, no,
It's
there's
so good.
there's some really good horror segments in there. There's like, and it's like this big hodgepodge. They're all different directors, all different like animation styles, but a lot of them are horror based. There's like one that's like based off of werewolves. There's one based off of like demons. There's the space horror one. There's actually like a lot of horror in there, and I would recommend you check that out too if you haven't seen it. Most of the segments are like good or great. There's a couple duds. The ones that try to be like comedic, I don't really like as much, but
How dare
all the like serious like horror ones are actually like really good. So yeah, I rewatched that one, and I think that's about it.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, I watched The Invisible Man today, actually, and we'll be talking about that at length next week. I'll go ahead and reserve my opinion. The only other thing I really had time to watch this week was I revisited that new Quentin Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
Which I think I enjoyed more on my second viewing. I think the first time I saw it, I was expecting there to be more like Roman Polanski involvement in it.
Oh yeah.
And Sharon Stone. But it was like, that's very much not what the movie's about.
Sharon
Which
Tate?
was kind of, Sharon
Yeah.
Tate. One of the Sharons, Sharon Osbourne, I think.
Yes,
is what
that's the
movie's
one.
about. Yeah, that one. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot more the second time around, knowing more of what I was going to get out of the movie. I don't know that it's like my favorite Tarantino movie or anything like that, but it's enjoyable. I would recommend
honestly,
watching.
it didn't feel like a Tarantino movie to me. And not to say that like it wasn't good or that there weren't parts, but like for a movie, it was like 2.5 hours long. It didn't feel justified, and it really like just the feel of it and even the dialogue, it just didn't really feel like a Tarantino film to me.
It's a little less like bloated as far as the dialogue goes, I guess. It's still dialogue heavy, but it's not quite.
Yeah,
it's not
I guess
what you would
it wasn't like very engaging dialogue. Like they weren't like, you know, like Tarantino kind of steps out. It's like it starts to become like metaphysical talk sometime about like what they're like talking about, or you know, it's like this just felt like a series piece, kind of like, I don't know. It didn't.
Yeah, there's nobody talking about what they call cheeseburgers in other countries at length or anything like that.
Those are the real topics that we want to hear about as
That's what I
Tarantino
want to
fans.
Right. Yeah, that's really all I had time to watch this week. It's good though. It's good. Solid Tarantino flick.
Well, there you go.
There you go. There. Tarantino made a movie. Check it out.
Yeah.
That's what we've been watching this week. Let's go ahead and get into the main event here. We're talking about Witchboard. Kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
I thought it was Witchboard.
Witchboard.
So this movie is from 1986. The plot synopsis is as follows. Never play it alone. This is actually off the back of the box. I bought this movie, Matt.
Of course you did.
Thanks.
Nobody's surprised by this.
Right.
Of course.
It's called a Ouija board, and it's been used for thousands of years to communicate with the souls of the afterworld. For beautiful Linda Brewster, it brings the playful ghost of a dead 10-year-old boy. But when the friendly spirit develops a sudden taste for violent murder and demonic possession, Linda's boyfriend and her former lover must race to destroy the ferocious portal of the damned.
We're going to get erected.
We're going to get erected.
I'm going to get erected.
Going to get
There it is.
erected.
That's a surefire back of the box. Pretty much nails it.
Matt, I did not buy this. I watched it for free on YouTube.
I watched it for free on Pluto TV. If you have not viewed it, you can view it there.
Cool. This was written and directed by Kevin Tenney, also known as Kevin S. Tenney. Same feller. Gentlemen, have you guys seen this movie before? And would you recommend people check it out? Randy, why don't you kick us off?
Unfortunately, I have never had the pleasure. This was the first for me. As far as recommendations go, I would put this in these terms. I would recommend it, but only if you are a fan of the kind of movies that a Joe Bob Briggs might show. Which is to say, if you're down for the drive-in style stuff, this one couldn't be more up that alley, I would say. Yeah, I think it's worthwhile for that sort of audience, and for me, I enjoyed it from that perspective. But it's not for everybody. That whole genre, that whole subgenre is really not for everybody.
Right. Yeah. Juice, what about you?
I have never seen this movie before. I would not recommend it.
Cool.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting through this movie. It's not that long. It's like an hour and 40 minutes, and about the 50-minute mark, I was like, Jesus Christ, there's another hour of this. It was tough. It is one of the most 80s fucking movies I've ever seen. So if you love the 80s, then get on this. Other than that, no.
Yeah. I've never seen this one before either. I'd give it a loose recommend. So this is Kevin S. Tenney, whom I personally know from Night of the Demons, the director of Night of the Demons, which is a really, really fun 80s horror movie set on Halloween with, obviously demons. Yeah. Much like this one, but right, and filled with nighttime, plenty of nights. I don't know. This definitely feels sort of like a stepping stone to Night of the Demons. So it's not quite as engaging as I find Night of the Demons to be.
Well, it's more serious. It's
quite as funny. Yeah.
It's not aiming for as much comedy as Night of the Demons did by any stretch.
Yeah, that's
I don't think there's supposed to be any kind of comedy in this movie.
Well, there was one-liners.
A little bit. Okay,
yeah,
that's right.
There definitely is. Not a ton, but
there's some comedy in there for sure. But it's not slapsticky. It's very much like just pithy one-liner dialogue-y things.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll get to it. Anyway, I give it like a light recommend if you're like a big fan of Night of the Demons. You just kind of want to see more of this director's work. Definitely check Witchboard out. It's got some pretty solid moments in it. It does get slow here and there, but also apparently it was good enough to make a sequel. Witchboard 2 came out in 1993, which maybe I'll have to buy that.
Origin of Evil.
I'll send you a link, Bob.
Oh, God damn.
YouTube.
That link will go unclicked until the end of time. I'm pretty sure.
Following Witchboard 2, he made Pinocchio's
That's 80s.
Revenge.
Oh
in
shit! Really?
1996. Yeah.
That's a box that I saw at Blockbuster for decades without
Wait,
realizing
that's what it's
it was.
called? Pinocchio's Revenge?
No. This is after
No.
Witchboard 2. He made
It's
another
a third
movie
film,
called Pinocchio's Revenge.
Okay.
which I don't know anything about it except for the cover. But that cover, when I was a kid, even then I was kind of like, Pinocchio's just not scary though. What do we do?
That looks very stupid.
I
It's
gotta
not-
And I definitely need to buy a copy now.
Well, there you go.
Oh,
Maybe you can
my
get a
God.
3-pack.
Bob, let me give you a tip. If you like that art style, you can just right click and save image as, and you can have it on your phone, computer,
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
you want. You can look at
Oh
it
yeah.
whenever
You
you
can print
want.
it and put it above your bed for
Yeah.
baiting
The-
later.
Pinocchio's Revenge is about a wooden doll that was previously owned by a deceased serial killer that the doll is then given to this small child. She starts freaking out.
So that
So.
sounds pretty samey to fucking Child's Play. All right.
Wow, this looks
Yeah.
terrible.
Anyway, that's
Pinocchio's
That's
Revenge.
not the film we're talking
That's not
about. We're going down
bit of
the
a
pipeline
tangent.
here.
Bit of a tangent there. So it sounds like we got a couple lukewarm recommends and one no-go from Soju Stains on Witchboard here. So let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and we'll get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right. You've been warned. There's,
Also, if anybody wants to follow along with this cast, you haven't seen this movie, and you don't want to pawn all your stuff away to buy Blu-rays like Bob, then I can send you a link. It's on YouTube.
I've never
It's on
pawned
Pluto
anything.
legally and for free. Pluto TV.
YouTube is legal. It's not like YouTube's illegal.
But it's not legally uploaded.
Right.
Well, it's not
Somebody
taken
just-
down.
got away with it for now. That's
Yeah.
Anyway, this movie is 80s as hell, and it starts off with these people at a party, and they're drinking, and they're talking about believing in God.
They're talking about
Or
atheism
not believing
right
in
out the
God.
gate.
Yeah, they come out hot.
The opening
Nice
of this
and hot.
movie is nuts.
Dude,
Um,
I remember I watched this after Justin had already seen it and had texted us something along the lines of, "This is a crowded room full of cooters right now." And
Yeah,
in that scene, absolutely true. There's not a like non-cooter in the bunch.
yeah, it's a party full of
Yeah.
cooters in the 80s, and it's getting hot and bothered. Woo.
yeah.
Dude.
We meet one of the main characters in this first scene, Sinclair, who's like a rich kid, and he's definitely an asshole. And he's he's talking
Sinclair's
to
the
this,
blonde guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
From Sinclair Vineyards.
Oh.
Vineyards.
He's talking to this to a God-fearing individual, and he's like, he tells this dude he's stupid because he believes in God. So they're just having this conversation about whether or not God exists. And
Which was hilarious.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That dude was coming off equally. It felt like
That's the thing.
everybody is pompous and full of
Sure.
themselves and full
And-
of shit.
yeah.
And,
And
like
wrong.
not and right. Yeah.
No, that's the thing is like if you wanted to like like in any other movie you see this conversation of like, oh wait, you don't like what do you think created the universe then? And he says, Sinclair says, well, what do you think created God? And he's like, nothing.
Right.
He's always been there, just like the universe. Which neither of these things are based on science, so neither of you have any sort of high
It's just-
ground
yeah.
besides this is what I want to believe. So
I think my favorite part of this whole conversation is where the Christian person says God not existing is, quote, bullshit. I love that.
I
Oh,
like
but-
because you're right, because they keep going like back and forth to where there's no way to argue against this.
well, if you
Like-
don't believe in God,
Yeah.
how do you explain
it's
truck
like
drivers or
it's like,
whatever?
so what existed before the universe? He's like, nothing. And he's like, what existed before God? He's like, God is all. I mean, like they both say the same
What
thing, just
made
change
God?
out the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're literally having a semantic argument, and they don't know
Quick,
it.
let's just make out.
And then the guy who's like who's virulently atheist, Sinclair, then goes on to break out a goddamn Ouija board. So
Yeah, then it
and
switches.
pompously correcting people
Right.
how to pronounce
Right.
Ouija.
Yeah, then it was like, I don't believe in God, but I believe in spirits. And then there's this one dude who's just like, kind of trying to enjoy the party, but then he turns into an asshole too. I thought like he was gonna be like our guy, like, okay, like we're gonna like here's our everyman or whatever, but then he turned into kind of a prick as well. And I was like,
are you talking
"God
about the
damn."
lead?
Yeah,
You're talking about
Jimmy, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's this whole first scene it's very interesting to me because this is how we're introduced to these two characters. First of all, Sinclair introduces what was his name? Jim. Yeah, whatever. Jim. He introduces Jimmy basically by saying like, "Oh, you wouldn't classify somebody like Jim here as intelligent life."
Right.
Yeah,
Like
God
taking
damn.
like huge shots at
Fuck
his
you,
house.
Sinclair.
It's Jim's
He
house.
wasn't even like
Like-
involved in the conversation. He was literally just like listening.
And he was
on the
just sitting there
side.
like, what the fuck? Like, we later find out there's a history, but it's a lot later. You find out, and I'm like, why
Yeah.
is this guy being so overtly like vicious to this guy? And then like Jimmy starts like one-lining him back, but pretty justifiably because the dude breaks out
Yeah.
a motherfucking
Yeah.
Ouija board and then starts hitting on his girlfriend.
Yeah,
So,
he's like got his arm around her or she something. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck's going on here? I couldn't understand like what the relationship
yeah,
was.
exactly.
Yeah.
I thought that she was with Sinclair
So did I
at
yeah.
first because
But
she's
the-
sitting next to him
But
and
she's
they're having a
with
conversation.
Jim. Yeah.
Yeah.
After Jim gets pissed off at Sinclair because he's a huge prick, he walks into the kitchen and grabs a handle of Jack Daniels.
Yeah,
I've never
and
seen
this
anybody
George
do this.
Michael looking motherfucker who I love. Lloyd is hilarious.
He's my favorite character. We'll get to Lloyd. But he opens this bottle of Jack Daniels by like slapping the side of the cap with his hand, and the thing spins completely off in like one smooth motion. And he just takes the handle to the face. Fuck. Jim is not playing around.
This
Yeah.
party is amazing.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah, I just want to be a fly on the wall at this party because then they break out the Ouija board, and of course, because he doesn't drink or smoke, and neither does what's the Tawny, whatever the actress is.
Yeah, what's her character's name? I can't remember.
Linda. Her
Linda.
name's
Yeah,
Linda.
So Linda
She's a
and Sinclair.
She's a pure woman.
She's a pure vessel like he
Yeah.
is. So they get to play with the Ouija board themselves and talk to a little boy named Dave.
David.
David. Well, at
Yeah.
first, okay, hang on. So he
And-
pompously said, he's just
I love
carrying
this
a
scene.
Ouija board around. Like, what?
Yes.
Never leave home without
Linda.
it.
To a party? And like,
And
Comes in
absolutely does
insulting
not
people's
believe in
beliefs
God.
and then breaks out a Ouija board.
yeah,
You
shits on
are
people's
really
beliefs.
being an asshole.
And then like, oh, let's like, and then cannot take the idea that he's in this
Even
party. It's
ribbing.
not his house. He
Yeah.
cannot take that anybody would find this like humorous.
Silly. He's like,
That you're gonna
he's like,
bust out. a
you've
fucking
offended
Ouija board
David.
and
well,
talk about
why not? He's
talking to
dead or some
ghosts.
shit like
Yeah,
that.
what- And then he kind of
He's
like
like, oh,
uses it as a way to kind of like hit on and try to pick
Yeah.
up this
Yeah.
other dude's girlfriend.
Dude,
It's like,
Jim
what
is-
the fuck is wrong with you?
Jim is a little bit of an asshole, but like I think he's perfectly justified and
Sure.
and everything.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
for considering the circumstances, he took it really fucking well. I
Now,
think.
see, in this first scene, but what they do with him later in the movie,
Yeah.
it makes it harder and harder to like root for him, which
Yeah,
sucks.
he eventually
Um,
like starts showing more and more shade of his own.
Because they
Um,
make you hate Sinclair so much from this opening scene, and then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, Jim's gonna be our guy, but then Jim turns out to be like quite a piece of shit, and Linda is just like getting manipulated. And you can't like quite attach
Can't
yourself to
pin her down really.
Yeah, because she makes like bad decisions, but also she's being manipulated. So really, I'm going through this whole movie where I'm like, I don't like any of these people I'm
Oh, really?
watching. I don't like.
I
I
a
ended up
single
liking
one.
Jim. I
Uh,
like Lloyd. I ended
well,
up liking Jim
Lloyd.
overall, but like
Yeah.
I like Jim overall, but he definitely like he shows some asshole behavior a few times, and it's
Yeah.
not as overt as Sinclair, but it's enough to where I'd be like, yeah, I wouldn't hang out with this guy.
No,
But considering the circumstances, the journey we're going through with these characters, I'm on his side more often than not. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
plot
Yeah.
holes and all, I'm on his side usually. So I mean, to that end, I give it a little bit of a pass. But you're absolutely right. These characters, there's not a lot to like about most of these people. Well, even Linda is like the first like interaction we have with her, not in a party where she's putting on a best face of some kind or whatever, putting on a social face, is her arguing with Jim about him being an asshole. She's like, why'd you have to ruin my party? It's like, that dude came in and started hitting on you. Like, what are you fucking talking about? The fact that I didn't punch him in the face and throw him out is testament to me not ruining anything.
Also, that's her ex-lover.
Yes.
That she has invited to
He agreed
her
to
new
have him
lover's house.
Yeah. Yep.
And she has her arm around him at one point and is playing fucking Ouija board and is watching him talk about her new lover's parents being alcoholics. And
yes.
it's like totally just allowing that shit.
He does
it's
that
like,
a couple times in this movie. He's like, father like son or whatever when he's drinking.
And it's do you think Linda is two-timing Jim with Sinclair? You think she's getting a little bit of that side act?
Well, I mean, she's certainly not making. Like, I don't think so.
I don't think so. But it's just like that's not okay. Like you
Yeah,
don't.
you should
invite
recognize
your
that as something.
ex-lover to your
Definitely not
party and watch him shit on his parents and then bitch at your boyfriend for like being pissed off.
About
it. For being
and
pissed
then
off.
put your arm around your
only,
ex-boyfriend. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
It wasn't even because he was pissed off.
I'm getting worked.
Damn, Linda.
Oh my god.
Linda's about
We're going to get erected.
I'm going to get erected.
I think we have already become erected.
Oh boy, yeah, and it's a rage boner going on here. Yeah, so like Jim, that whole scene is great. Lloyd and Jim are like really like one line and back and forth or whatever. Jim's whole character is based around him being able to like make a I don't know, like a suave one-liner or whatever from time to time. And I think they're like for the most part fairly reasonably funny. It's nothing that's going to gut bust or anything. But I'm like, I was with Jim on some of his humor. I was down with that.
Yeah.
But it also like winds up with him being a little less likable because he does that so often that his sincerity bone is just broken for a lot of the movie. Yeah. And it becomes a plot point, so credit where that's due, but it's still just sort of like to Justin's point, it's tough to follow a character like that and stay invested in him as a protagonist. Anyway.
Dude, let's talk about how 80s this movie is real quick.
Dude,
everybody has the 80s mullet. Everybody's rocking that 80s mullet. Sinclair's got the blonde one. It's like more kind of developed, I guess.
Oh yeah, developed. Yeah,
but Jim's got
it's
one
a stage
too.
3 mullet.
Yeah, Jim's got like everybody's got
a fucking George Michael fucking feather ass earring in the one ear and his shades that he's always doing the down on the low on the rim of the nose shades.
Dude, Sinclair's got the jade pinky ring
and he's got a
That's a bold choice.
Anytime they're playing with the freaking Ouija board, dude, he's got the freaking jade pinky ring kicking. I was like,
around here, that means big money.
That means big fucking money.
Big fucking swinging Sinclair money. But I can't get over Lloyd. He also has a Sonny's barbecue hat on, which I thought was hilarious.
Lloyd. So
I didn't notice that.
He did. Yeah.
Lloyd, whenever they first contact David at the party, and like David the ghost freaks out and ends up popping Sinclair's tires, like on his nice car outside. He like pops
as
tires.
Ghosts are known to do when they're upset.
And Lloyd like peers out the window and notices that the tires are blown on his car, and his response is to say, "Oh man, multiple sadness." And I was like, "This is my favorite character in this fucking movie."
Lloyd is amazing. Oh man, that shit's so good. I like that.
Multiple sadness.
Dude, can we go? Let's just finish out Lloyd's arc here real quick because Lloyd isn't in the lot of this movie. Yeah. It's a short-lived character, and it's a shame.
So with the Ouija board, real quick, so they want to talk to a ghost, and at first, Sinclair like bitches out. He's like, "I'm not talking to this ghost because he doesn't have."
Like, you want to talk about Lloyd? Fuck you. We're not talking about
well, no, I want to get to where we can talk about Lloyd.
I got you.
But like, so Sinclair's like, no, we're not talking to this ghost. They lie or whatever. Yeah. And so he's like, I want to talk to my 10-year-old ghost friend, David. He's got a secret. God, this dude's such a pompous asshole. He's got like a secret like sign or whatever. And it's a figure 8. And so
figure 8 the biggest secret of all.
And then they start talking to this ghost. But the thing is like the ghosts get mad because Jim is like making fun of the they're talking to
being
ghosts.
ghosts. Yeah.
And
It's
so
like,
that's
the
when they
cardboard's
get-
really speaking to you, or whatever he
That's
says,
when-
that sort of shit.
That's when they get mad. And so we've already established that there's possibly 2 ghosts here. David and the first one who was not David or whatever. And then the tire pops, and then the ghosts are mad because of Jim. And so they start seeking vengeance on Jim, who is a construction worker. And now we could talk about Lloyd. Go for it.
Yeah, and also Linda starts using the Ouija board because it's left at their house by mistake.
That's right. Yeah.
And she starts
She
using
gets
it on
way
her
into
own,
it.
which I guess you're not supposed to do. We find out later. Yeah, she's super into it.
Which he didn't tell anybody. He didn't say, like,
which,
hey,
I
don't
mean,
do this
he didn't mean to
alone.
leave it behind. I don't really count that as much of a plot hole or anything, but
Yeah.
it was, whatever. But so that's pretty much where we are, and Jim goes to work. Jim and Lloyd work on a construction construction site of some kind.
Yeah,
a
they're
house
building
it appears to be.
houses. Yeah.
And they're shooting the shit or whatever, and Jim's hammer, which is also an axe for some reason. I don't know why that's standard issue, but everybody has the hammer axe combo. And,
Yeah, it's like a drywall hammer.
is that
what
a
it is.
standard thing? I never obviously don't know shit about construction, so maybe I'm showing my ass, but I'd never seen that before, and it's, to me, wouldn't make sense as like a standard object to work with. Just have a hatchet.
The first time we see that in action, though, like Lloyd's fucking around with Jim at work,
What
and
the
he just
fuck?
throws it at his face,
Yeah.
and it
They're just like,
sticks in the wall. Oh, Lloyd, you silly
Lloyd.
goose.
Yeah, you're so fun. So fun, Lloyd.
It was
You
supposed
just
to
fucking
be like a jump scare, I guess. Because
Yeah.
it like almost kills him. It's like right
Yeah,
by
it's
his
like,
fucking face.
You're lucky you didn't hit me, buddy. Like, yeah, you really are lucky you didn't hit me.
You
Why are
would
you
be
laughing?
dead.
If any of- I don't mind telling you guys, if you guys throw an axe at me, we're gonna have a problem. But yeah, so then that aside, they start chit chatting or whatever, talking about how ridiculous the Ouija board was, yada yada, and Jim's hammer / hatchet is missing, and we see it sitting on top of some drywall that's above where they end up having their lunch. And then eventually, after a few minutes, Jim stands up to go get ready for work, and Lloyd's like, "Oh, don't make me go to work," and he falls backwards dramatically, and then the fucking drywall all crashes on him really suddenly, and I thought that shit was like really effective. I was like, "Oh my god, really?"
Yeah.
I was kind of blown away, and it was just it was one shot too. It seemed like, I don't know if it was or not actually, but it seemed like so sudden and so like, I don't know. It came
Honestly,
out of nowhere
that
to me.
might have been the most effective kill because it looks like
think
it like
so.
hurt. Like it looks real.
and it's unique. Like,
it like
to me,
it falls onto because the guy's he's laying back and it like falls like on his like entire
On his
upper
soft
body,
belly,
on his
yeah.
face, like
so it's
and
not like it
everything.
hit
You're
him on
like,
the
oh,
caught them on
shit.
the head like a comedy bit.
Like
He
it
got,
looks like it hurt,
smushed
like it
by
crushed it.
levels of that shit.
Yeah.
And it fell from like at least a story high, probably two.
Yeah, I think
And,
it was
yeah.
about like third story. Yeah, and it fell down like pretty far. God, at that point I was like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
But the rest of the effects in this movie are much worse.
Yeah, there's some wonky shit. So Lloyd dies, and we find out that his last name is Salvador. Lloyd Salvador. That's a hell of a name. So they have
Somebody
a
won a
funeral.
fucking contest to be in that movie. The name
Seriously.
of the movie.
They have a funeral for him, and there's a detective that enters the movie at this point, and he's investigating Lloyd's death, and he starts questioning Jim about it. And this detective, throughout the rest of the movie, every time we see this detective, he's making like metaphors about magic,
Yeah,
like
what the
magic
fuck?
tricks.
He's the
Yeah.
worst
He's
character.
obsessed with magic.
He's the worst
He's like-
character.
He's like, Jim, do you like magic?
There's this boy Sigmund and Roy, he says. I was like, wow, really dodged that litigious bullet.
Yeah.
Jim, at a certain point, literally says, "We're not talking about magic, are we?"
Yeah.
No,
We're gonna get erected.
We're gonna get erected. So yeah, Jim is under suspicion for murdering his friend, essentially, and he's also under suspicion for the following murders that we've yet to discuss.
The following murders to be
Here
listed
we go.
sequentially now.
right now.
So then Linda like starts freaking out a little bit. She keeps playing with the Ouija board, and at first it like helps her. It like helps
It
her
tells
find
her that she's
ring.
pregnant.
Yeah,
It
she's
tells
pregnant.
her
It's like,
that
she's like, I knew it.
pregnant.
She finds a diamond ring and some pipes.
But then she starts like getting weird. She's like, cussing a lot, and she's like really agitated a lot.
Let me tell you something that you should never do, and that is sneak up on Linda, because she will absolutely cut your heart out. And
Most of the time,
right
too. Like, he was just coming into the room.
Dude, he like that must be like a running gag they had, but it wasn't developed enough to seem funny. It was just more like, man, this guy creeps a lot.
Yeah, it just happened like 2
silent.
times, but he just like comes into the room. She's like,
Happens 2 times to her and at least once to Sinclair later on in the movie.
don't you ever fucking sneak up on me again, you comment.
I will cut off your dick and feed it to your mother as she weeps.
God.
That's a direct quote from this movie.
Yes, it is.
Oh, really?
No.
I know. I watched.
Aren't you being a little stupid?
Oh, shit. So, yeah, Linda, we find out that Linda is pregnant through her talking to David, the ghost kid, via this Ouija board. And also, we come to find out that in this movie, apparently, if you're a ghost, you get to choose your parents during reincarnation.
That's a system that I've never
What?
heard of before, and it certainly doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people are lining up to be in Bill Gates' ball sack? How many ghosts are just waiting? Like, nobody wants to be birthed like by their specific parents usually. Like, that's the fact that there's a choice. Is there like a waiting process? Is it first come first serve?
Yeah,
First person to inhabit
really
the protozoa
leaned
wins.
into that, and it didn't matter at all. But they bring it up several times because, like, first, like when they're first playing with the Ouija board, they ask him like, "Do you expect to come back to life or something?" And it's
He
like,
says
yes. You're like, "Oh my God, reincarnation is real! Hallelujah!"
Mm-hmm.
And then like the whole parents thing, and like they come back to it like several times, and it doesn't like, because she asked the ghost like, "Do you want to be like my baby? Like, do you want to like," because it tells her she's
And he says,
pregnant, and it's like
"No."
no, and it's like, why does this matter at all? It doesn't.
It ends up not mattering at all because we later find out that there is no pregnancy.
Yeah,
So
she's not pregnant at all.
She's not pregnant. She was tricked by a tricksy little demon boy.
See, I thought that they were gonna do that, and like she was gonna be pregnant with like this fucked up
demon.
baby
Yeah.
or something. I was like, that's an interesting idea. Like, I'm
That's been
intrigued
done
by
though.
this.
Really, that to me was like, I was like, man, I kind of hope they don't do that. And I was pretty happy
really?
when it turned out, yeah, because like to me, it's much more interesting that there's this thing lying to her, and there's definitive things that he's lying about, and
Yeah.
all these like issues that she's been having that you've been chalking up, or that Jim anyway has been chalking up to, morning sickness or whatever else. Turns out, oh no, it's actually like
I guess
completely
to-
implanted.
I guess I
Progress.
just found it like really weird that at the end of it, like all that time they spent talking about you can choose your parents, like didn't matter at all.
Yeah, that's true. Like it
does,
didn't
like,
really pay
why?
off. I wonder if they maybe were originally going to do what you described and then rewrote it out, maybe. Because it seems like the bones of something that probably had an actual conclusion at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really factor
Sinclair-
in though.
Sinclair sort of shed some light on what exactly is happening with this Ouija board. He goes to see Jim while he's working for some reason to have this conversation. And he's like, asking if Linda's been weird. And Jim confirms essentially. And he's like, okay, so this is all due to, quote, progressive entrapment,
Yeah,
which, what? That's basically what he's
progressive
saying.
entrapment. That's
like
it's
the
a legal
ghost-
precedent that few know about ghosts.
The ghost is working this progressive entrapment system, and he's got it fucking down apparently. And he starts off being like really kind to Linda, helping her find a ring and shit like that. And then he starts like playing with her mind and makes her like do fucked up things, essentially with the end goal being to possess
Possession.
her.
Yeah.
So Sinclair's like, we got to help Linda out. And Jim is sort of not
Skeptical.
believing
Yeah.
all of this shit. And
Very
he's like, so
skeptical.
he actually says, like, what are you telling me? I'm living with Linda Blair? Ha ha ha.
Not one of the
Still.
prize one-liners.
Also,
in this movie.
anytime Sinclair talks about anything, even though he's like right, he's such a piece of shit about it. You're like,
Oh yeah,
fuck you.
Yeah.
yeah.
He
It
is.
doesn't matter.
It's like,
that's what's so funny.
Of
Is like
course,
he's
I
such a
don't
piece
know
of
about
shit, but he's
ghost
absolutely right.
entrapping people. Like, but the way he's like, listen to me, Jim, you piece of shit. It's entrapment. How can't you get this? It's like, goddamn, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? A ghost is taking on. It's like, this is ridiculous shit.
It's like you expect me. You're. It's like somebody like being really pissed off at you for saying that the Earth is round or something. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, why on earth would I know your insane theory? Why would I know that? Why would,
Randy's
like,
a flat earther, by the way. People don't know.
Yeah.
oh, that is not.
Yeah. We got to talk about this.
Because you
Okay.
said the crazy theory that the Earth is round.
No, I said if I said that, and then the person reacted with their own theory, that is clearly wrong. Maybe flat Earth, maybe octagonal Earth. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who
Hexagonal.
knows? Nobody knows.
So
It's impossible to know.
we got to talk about Zarabeth, the medium.
Oh my god,
I
dude!
guess.
Zarabeth, I'm on the fence about this character entirely. So Zarabeth is the medium that they bring in. It's absolutely a comedic character that's more in line with the characters in Night of the Demons than it is with any characters in this movie. She's totally like, she looks a little bit like Zool from Ghostbusters, the hair a little bit, and of course the like absolute like fucking monolithically straight-laced white men that lead this movie are like, who's the rainbow head and shit like that. And it's just like, and then the jokes, man, like, I don't know, the attempt at humor in this particular case didn't really land for me, I don't think.
Yeah, there's like one thing I thought was funny enough, but they bring Zarabeth in to try and get to contact David and ask David to leave, which turns out he actually does leave peacefully because the next step was an exorcism, which they ended up not doing. So Zarabeth is like getting dropped off at her apartment after helping get rid of the ghost, and Sinclair's dropping her off, and she says TTFN, which I guess stands for ta-ta for now, which I will now say in my everyday life.
Of course
Okay,
you
great.
will, Bob.
That's
Of course. I believe you.
that's great.
Hey, thanks.
And I licked her asshole a little bit.
That was the wrong bump, but all right.
That'll
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
That'll do. So that's the next murder, though. Zarabeth ends up getting pushed out of her second-story window onto a sundial by a ghostie, by a vengeful
very
ghost.
very sharp sundial.
Yeah.
I liked her house.
After
I'll tell you
getting
that.
hit
Like,
by like a hammer or
Yeah.
something, what was she like hit by? Like a sledgehammer or something?
she was she was axed with his axe hammer. The axe hammer is
Was
going around
it?
all the murder
Okay,
sites for a while. 'Cause
Uh,
it's missing for a long time.
Oh,
You don't get a good look at it,
okay,
but you see
yeah.
it from time to time.
I gotcha.
So
I
the
liked her house.
detective.
It was the dumb decorations really got me. I liked it. Let's just have a
Yeah.
picture of James Dean on my wall.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
I don't. The way she
I
was
want my
portrayed,
side table to be a dice.
there's a weird tone in this movie that I can't quite get a feel for, because it's like Sinclair, like half the time, is like talking about these things that, like, when presented, like Jim is like the everyday man. He's drinking whiskey from the bottle, and he's working construction, and
He doesn't do well with his feelings.
yeah, and he's highly like suspicious and things like that. And like, okay, that's fine. And so they bring in this medium who represents this other world that's like alternative life. Yeah.
She's like, whereas Sinclair is like an acceptable face to these theories in some levels.
She's
She
like
is
on
like
the
the
extreme,
other
like dyed
Other
hair.
end of the spectrum, like, okay,
Yeah.
what's the person that somebody would like Jim would most be offended by?
Exactly. How ridiculous is this? But the thing is, though, it's like, but it's all true in this story. So
Yeah,
it's
within
like,
the logic of the movie, it's all true. So he gets to
but
feel
the
like an
way they
asshole.
but the way they present it is like the absurd. You know,
Mhm.
it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's hard to get a grasp on like what they're trying to do or say half the time with this movie and the characters that they bring in. I feel like I'm always like kind of like confused about like, am I supposed to
see what's
like this person, or like,
I think it's
know
just
what I'm
supposed to be a
saying?
comedic character. It's like it's comedic relief, really. I'm not confused by it, really.
okay. I don't.
So,
I was
to me,
confused,
it's
like
like-
tonally, not in like what's happening, but just like in like tonally, like, am I supposed to be more associating with Jim? Because when she comes in, she is like kind of annoying and her voice is like really high, and just the way
You're
she
not
looks,
supposed
it
to be like
represents
super respectful of her.
exactly.
She's a means to an end that
Exactly.
also, it's like in any of the Insidious movies when you have the
The
two
goofball,
like
yeah.
goofball characters, like,
Yeah.
except she's not in all of it. She's only in a handful of scenes.
Yeah.
They
I
have
guess
Lloyd doing that for a while, and then her for a while, and then it becomes the climax where you don't need that as much.
I guess I
So,
had a
I mean,
much harder time with them. Like, I felt like they were making me like trying to associate more with Jim, but then things like this would come in where you're like, yeah, see, Jim thinks this chick is a weirdo, right? And you're like, well, I mean, I don't know. It just like I really like didn't sit well.
Well,
I
it's
was like,
'cause-
who am I supposed to be in this movie? Like who, where am I? Where's my perspective?
you're supposed to be in
coming
that
from?
scene. I think the perspective is supposed to be, okay, you're with Jim, like, okay, you know that something's going on, so you're kind of with Jim. Where it's like, yeah, you'd have to convince me too. And this really bizarre person is, because it's a different time where people were really put off by that, I guess. Like, this person has dyed hair and an earring and fringes on her jacket, and like makes jokes about crystal balls. Oh no, it's the worst possible medium interaction. It's like if it was written in the 90s, it would be Miss Cleo's stand-in that would show up, and the person and Jim would be like, "Oh, brother," and
I'd watch that.
yeah, I would watch that too. But
Dude, our younger
like, that's
audience
really the
doesn't
whole-
understand that reference.
you definitely do though, right? You understand it as somebody who's in their 30s. Yep.
21 stains.
Only from hanging out with you guys.
Oh yeah, we really age you up.
Oh yeah. So they Sinclair and Jim sort of like team up after Zarabeth dies, and
Because they
they
both
find
love
out.
Linda.
Yeah. They find out that David was this kid who was from a town called Big Bear, and I guess they decide to go to Big Bear and investigate his death. And so they go to the library in Big Bear and look at the microfilm or whatever, and they find out that like he was killed in a boating accident when he was 8, and his parents died like a couple weeks prior on the anniversary of his death or something like that. So they go to the cemetery to like look at the kid's grave, and they're just like
And
doing
Jim
all
does
this.
his classic sneak up on you moment.
Fucking Jim is like a ninja, apparently.
And everybody
Silent.
freaks out. It's like when Gene Parmesan shows up on Arrested Development. People just lose their shit.
Gene Parmesan.
Yeah, that was a
Damn,
deep
that's
pull,
funny.
Randy.
That is
You
some
know,
funny shit.
I got him.
So they team up. They end up in this town of Big Bear on a dock on a lake with the Ouija board trying to contact So we eventually find out there's another demon or ghosty or whatever that's back called Malfader. And
Mouth
Malfader.
Vader.
Mouth,
All I heard every time they said it was
Mouth
Mouth
Vader.
Vader. Oh, that sounds bad. He's a Vader, and he's got a mouth.
Malfader has been like pretending to be David, talking to people on the Ouija board.
Because that's there. He's attached to the house. He died in the house that Linda and he are living in.
Yeah. So there's a bad spirit and a good spirit, and David sort of like starts talking to them and rats out Malfader in this scene when they're on the dock, and he like spells out Malfader is here, and then like these big canisters roll off of whatever,
which
onto the
didn't
dock.
look dangerous enough to actually knock anybody out. Maybe throw you in the water,
But
sure,
then he
which happens.
stabs him in the fucking
they got knocked in
forehead. It's
Yeah.
like, if you can
Which-
stab people
okay.
in the forehead, if you can stab them in the forehead, why the fuck do you need to let loose these barrels and like just stab them?
Dude, I'm telling you one thing. The logic of how like a ghost interacts with the physical world that's like the one area that this movie doesn't really know what the fuck it's doing. Because it also, like, at one point, in order to scare Linda, she's going into the kitchen. She's like, "Oh, I'm done talking to you, David. You're just kind of a jerk." And then She walks into the kitchen, and a giant butcher's knife flies off the wall and lands on a rug in the center of the room. And you know what? Okay, well
and
and
then
good,
he pours
whatever. Ghost
ketchup
logic.
on it or some
And then
shit.
and then ketchup tips over and falls.
I
Okay.
thought that was cocktail sauce.
Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. It was red.
We gotta
It
get
was
to the
standing
bottom
for
of this.
blood.
What?
It's standing for
What?
blood. And the issue I have with that, and this is so pedantic, and I totally know it is, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, why is this bottle that's tipped over a counter and is pouring off just the side of the counter landing in the middle of a rug in the middle of the room on the middle of the floor?
There was
That
a
is
strong
not how
breeze
space
in the
works.
kitchen that day.
Dude,
Also, too,
apparently-
he's
yeah.
already shown that he can take an axe. He's cut ropes. He has knocked.
Right?
He's
Yeah.
knocked a bitch out
cuts
a
some rope.
window.
He can do
and
whatever. Really.
Then he stabs
can.
a dude in the forehead. But then Jim is just laying on the dock, passed out for like hours, and he's fine.
What?
Why
Well,
didn't he just
because he's
stab him in
intending-
the fucking?
I think. Well, we're
throat.
told later on that him and Linda were both essential to the plan of the evil. They're both
Yeah.
part of the plan.
Yeah, I guess.
So he
Actually,
needs
I'm
them
having a hard
alive.
time remembering.
That's
Oh, that's
understandable.
right. That's
dumb.
right. Yeah.
It's a dumb rug pull, but
I will.
It happens,
Yeah,
so.
I will tell you. At the point where the medium dies, I looked at the time. It was around the 50-minute mark, and they're like, "We're gonna go to this town and investigate." I was like, "Nope." Like I had no interest. I had no interest in it. And then by then, when they're like, "The parents are dead," or like, "We got to call the parents," and the boy died, I was like, I feel like none of this actually matters, and they're literally filling the time void. And it was, because there's no point to David's death. There's no point to
They had to
parents
reconcile.
dying and there being an accident 2 weeks. Like they give you all these like specific details, like his parents died 2 weeks ago. There must have
Yeah.
been something sinister going. It's like, no, actually, the ghost of David doesn't even fucking matter at all. Not at all.
Well, it does. It's a guise that the real demon uses to.
But I mean,
To
the whole
interact
like
with
let's
Linda and enact
investigate
the
his
whole plan.
death. I know, but
Yeah,
then
no,
like to say
I
like
stand
his
by-
death, like yeah, no,
I agree with
it
you to the
doesn't
extent
matter.
that they overplay their investigatory Scooby-Doo hand a little bit.
I was
And like that's
oh
that's
my
where the movie
God.
drags the worst. But on the upswing of that, we didn't cover really the relationship between Sinclair and Jim once we kind of figure that all that
Yeah.
out. But yeah, so Sinclair dated Linda first, and while Jim was in med school, which he dropped out of because he has commitment issues. And then later on, he starts dating Linda without knowing that. And then that's when the rift started. They haven't spoken in 2 years or whatever.
Which is
And the
weird
whole
because
t-
they're like, we grew up together. We were like
Yeah, we were
brothers.
like
You lived
brothers.
at my house because like your parents were alcoholics or whatever. And I was
Yeah.
like, how would you not know that's like your best friend's girlfriend?
Yeah, and also even if you
What?
didn't because you were away at school or whatever, and it's the 80s and FaceTime doesn't exist, even if that's true, even if all that's true, all you got to do is have a conversation like, dude, you know that's my ex-girlfriend, right? Like, oh, holy shit, really?
Yeah. Or
Oh my
also
God,
like,
dude,
hey,
I'm
I've
sorry. Like,
been dating
I
this
just
girl
started
for a
dating
couple
her. I don't know.
months. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
hey, I didn't know this was your ex-girlfriend. Like,
Are you cool with it? I don't want to hurt, like, whatever. You have your conversation. You can have a real conversation
Yeah.
about that. That doesn't involve you not speaking, and then every time you do speak, saying things like, "Well, you're dumb." That's not smart. But they do reconcile, which I think they handled that pretty well. Like
they did, yeah.
their animosity and how they like resolved it by just being on the same team in terms of saving Linda. I think all that plotting worked well enough. It added something nice to the movie that actually made me like a little engaged with the characters. Whereas if they didn't have that going on, I wouldn't give a fuck about
Yeah,
Sinclair, and I would
that's
want him off my screen forever.
Yeah.
So I mean, to the extent, and it gave him an outlet to like speak his mind, because his whole character, that is, Jim's whole character arc is centered around him not being able to deal with his emotions. He's afraid he'll never love anyone ever in his life, and he's he has commitment issues and all these things. And it's like those are his big struggles. So reconciling with an old friend, specifically over, that's a big way to like sort of like that's a way of introducing his healing process for his life or whatever in a way that makes the next step of fixing his domestic life a little bit a little bit more sense.
Yeah, they did decent,
and it makes it more engaging in general. I liked all that stuff. It could have come off a lot cheesier than it did. I'll definitely say that.
Yeah. Let's blast through the end of this plot.
So the end is where things kind of fuck up for me. So you go ahead, Bob. You got it.
Carlos Mouthfader, the axe murderer back in the day.
Mouthfader.
We find out all about Carlos Mouthfader by this like random witch lady that works at a witch store at this bear town, or I don't know, info dump.
Big bear town.
Yeah, and then we get back to Linda. She's at the house. She's taking a shower, and she gets like locked into the shower or something because of Mouthfader.
And the water becomes so hot that she can't.
Yeah,
she
punches through the glass.
Dude, you got a towel that you can punch through glass with. You could put it underneath the water and then turn off the water and then open the door. You don't have to punch through glass.
Did anybody else find this like shower scene like I'm all for Yabos. Don't get me wrong.
We know.
Pivotal to the plot.
But even I was like
to be there.
I was like, I feel like this is, especially I'm going to talk about a couple
this
trivia,
was in
but
the contract, and so they put it in.
Yeah, I was like, this does not seem like, I don't think we should have done.
The producers were like, okay, we'll give you money to make your movie, but we need to see Tawny's titties.
Her getting stuck in the shower really, it had nothing to do with anything at all.
No, her being naked, like her being nude was not necessary at all. This clearly was to get this woman nude, and it was clear that was the case. And I was like, I'm not down with this.
But she's like fully possessed at this point in the movie, and Jim comes home after Sinclair getting murdered on the dock,
and the house is all fucked up for some reason.
Yeah, and Linda starts like choking Jim out. She's trying to kill him, and he tells her that he loves her, and the demon's like, "Oh, it's not going to be that.
It's not going to be that easy, Jim."
And then she's dressed in his clothes.
That shit cracked. That was the worst. She looks like Rose the Hat. It's like all of a sudden, she's sucking seed.
That's how you know she's possessed, man. She's got a hat.
My, that shit was so corny.
But it's like
fuck.
She's in a woman's like 3-piece blazer suit going on 80s style and a fucking bowler hat because she has because the person that's possessing her, despite being an attractive woman's body, decides, I still want to dress. I want to dress like myself, though. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna guss
shopping.
I may be wearing a pair of primo Yabos right now, but it doesn't mean I have to wear a dress. Okay, I'm not gonna do it. Fucking guy, I don't understand. This Hatchet dude's got problems. I mean, let's just fess up to that.
The detective rolls back in. He's all obsessed with magic again, and he gets fire pokered to the face. So this is sort of like where we find out the twist, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's like Linda being possessed is not the goal. Like Jim is some sort of like portal, I guess.
No. That is the goal, to possess her, but he's doing it by way of him because he's being used as the conduit.
Yeah,
I don't understand the logic of that either.
I don't really understand either. Because
I
never even touched the Ouija board.
No.
He did eventually, but it was not when things started going. It was after things had been going wrong for a few minutes.
I took, for some reason, that like reveal or whatever, when the demon was like explaining his motive, I took his motive as like the only reason he possessed Linda was just to torture Jim. Like the goal was more or less to like fuck with Jim. Maybe is what I thought.
Maybe
you could be right. That would actually make a lot more sense than how I took it, which to me was like, okay, but that doesn't. Jim didn't actually have anything to do with anything.
Yeah. I don't get that either, though. None of it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense either way, because why would you, like, if Jim is the portal and the board wasn't, then why would you want to like fuck with your portal? I don't understand it.
He's only if he's doing it just to torture him, then like possessing the person he loves and making him like choose between stabbing her or not, or killing himself. Why
would you want to fuck with your portal? Like, go go fuck with somebody else. Like,
Well, maybe he doesn't care
yeah.
about being back to life that way. Like maybe
Maybe.
he's only doing the whole thing purely because Jim was an asshole at that party.
We really got to get in the mind of Carlos Mouthfader
I'm
to
trying.
understand this movie.
Which is impossible because we
I
know
need to go
nothing
get a
about
bowler
this movie.
hat.
We know nothing about like the
Maybe
primary
then.
antagonist demon. The only thing we know about him is that he's mean and evil, and that's it.
Yeah.
And he likes
He's-
hatchets.
Axe murderer. Yeah, that's about all we got. Yeah.
And he used to live in that house, which is super convenient, I guess. And
Well,
some
I mean, that
woman
makes
in
sense,
another town knows about him.
Right.
Yeah, because she's a witch, so obviously all witches know about every hatchet murder
Witchboard.
in history and
There's
where they
two-
died, and it's in
there's-
all of their occult books, of course.
There's 2 moments in this final scene where I was just like, I've had it with this.
Which
Yeah.
one was it?
It was
Which
I
ones?
guess the 2 supposedly supposed to be like special effects moments where he shoots the Ouija
Dude,
board
That shit needs to
that's like
not
slow
be in this movie.
motion.
and
then
3D. It's not a 3D movie, but I would have
Yeah.
thought this had been
He,
intended
like,
for 3D.
shoots
when
The
it's
board's
all
like
that shot.
flying around.
lion
and
and he's like shooting holes.
And then
Oh,
him
it was
falling
so-
out the window. Is that the other?
and
thing?
then him falling out the
the
window.
green
Slow-mo.
screen fall.
Dude, that slow-mo was the dumbest looking shit.
Dude,
I've
I was
seen.
on board for
loved
like
it.
3 seconds to 5
What?
seconds, and then I was like, "But you can see the strings on
It
this thing.
went
I know
on
exactly how this is
so
done without even
long.
thinking about it."
That
I
man
loved the
falling out
slow-mo
that
fall.
window took so fucking
I didn't.
long.
The time didn't bother me. I didn't have that
It
reaction.
No.
looked ridiculous.
It did. After like you stare, them making it as slow as they possibly could only did it a disservice. If they had made it quick, it might have not given me time to be like, "Oh, but this does look shitty, doesn't it?" Like,
just because the way
Don't-
he's falling, it does. He's like it just.
it reminded me
looks-
of that shot in Breaking Bad, if you guys remember, where Jesse tries heroin and he starts lifting out of the bed from a top-down angle and starts like being
Mhm.
crane lifted. But that scene was amazing, and there was like obviously like a great reason to do that, like story-wise. This didn't really play that well because it's not meant to be like a symbolic camera work thing. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
what's actually happening, and it looks fucking dumb because of that. Like, I can't take that seriously. I certainly can't take that goddamn Ouija board getting shot seriously. That was the worst to me. I was like, oh my god, just he shot the fucking cardboard Ouija. He shot it and that's
Instead
how
of
he
himself.
won. And that's how he won the thing. How does that work? We don't
Which-
ever get an explanation as to why that matters.
It doesn't make any sense because the Ouija board is not the portal, as we have just learned.
Yes.
He's the portal.
Or the thing might have been lying to him or whatever, and that's all well and good. But the thing is, like, we were told by Sinclair, a trustworthy source, that the Ouija board itself is no longer necessary. He doesn't
Yeah.
need it. So what the fuck is the point of shooting it? It's not a Horcrux. You can't stab it with a fang and expect to like go on and with your day and everything be good.
Yeah, it's
It
not
has
even
nothing to
like
do
it
with
was
that.
destroyed either. He
No, he
shoots
just shot it.
and it's
It's
got
got
a
a
hole
hole
in
in
it.
It's got a fucking hole in it.
And then there's
And
this
it-
chick who
literally, they
shows up at the end who we've never seen before.
It's the
she's like,
landlord
"Oh."
and somebody who works.
So,
there.
Jim,
the girl.
Jim doesn't die.
Oh, okay.
Jim falls out
girl.
went on a car. He doesn't die. Jim and Linda end up getting married. Then
I like
the
that in the sleep,
landlady.
though.
I think we did see the landlady once.
We did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we saw the landlady
We
a couple
saw her a
times.
couple times.
The
yeah.
landlady and her
Yeah.
daughter or something.
I was
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about her daughter. She's the one who
Yeah.
picks up the
Oh.
Ouija board. She's like, I wonder if
Yeah.
this still works or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, who is
Roll
this bitch?
credits.
Who's bitch? No, I really like though. Just taking one quick step back, I liked the shot of like right after he falls out the window, where it's showing the people in the pews at church or whatever, and you're like, it totally misleads you into thinking that it's a funeral. Even the organ music
Yeah.
is kind
Yeah.
of dour at first, and then it pans slowly over, and you see them getting married, and the music chirps up or whatever. I liked that. It was simple, but I thought it was pretty effective. I was like, oh, nice. So just want to call
Yep.
that out.
That's the saga of Carlos Mouth Vader. You guys have anything else to?
Dude, did you guys see the waterbed? Talking about how 80s this movie is.
It does
they
have a
had
waterbed.
they had a waterbed.
Man, my
And I was-
grandparents had a waterbed. That's weird, right?
Dude,
My
well,
aunt and
you,
uncle had a waterbed.
for your grandparents to have it. So when
Yeah.
when I was little, like in my dad's my grandparents' house, my dad's younger siblings all had a waterbed. So my aunt had one when they were still teenagers, and my uncle had one. And then my dad's old room, there was like, he had a waterbed that he had moved out of the room. So that in that house, there were 3 waterbeds.
Oh my
That's
God.
insane.
It's the motion of the ocean house.
Yeah.
The tools like to fuck.
So I was like, damn.
Around here, that means big money.
Big money. And then I was kind of like, it would be so difficult to like have sex on a waterbed, it feels like. And then I kind of was like, I want to have sex on a waterbed now.
Maybe for you.
That's wild.
I like a challenge.
The real trick is having sex with a waterbed. I mean, that's really tough.
Hey,
Damn.
we are not here to kink shame. That is for
No.
sure.
Dude, we don't
That's
kink
for sure.
shame. We only shame.
We only
Blu-rays.
elevate kinks around here.
We elevate the
true.
kinks. We
Yes.
de-elevate
Es-
No.
Blu-rays.
No.
Especially Lola.
No.
That's a great song.
Oh man. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we rate this thing?
No.
Sounds like a no.
Switchboard.
Switchboard. Cool. Well, Randy, why don't you kick us off? Out of 5, how do you feel about Witchboard?
So right out of the gate, when we started talking about this movie, it seemed like I had a reasonably better time, certainly than Justin, and maybe even you, Rob. I'll let your score reflect whether or not that's true. But for me, I didn't hate this movie. It was overlong for me, and there were like the Scooby-Doo chase scenes or whatever didn't serve enough of a purpose for me to feel good about them. Some of the there were some really effective kills in the form of Lloyd specifically. And that's the one I always think of, and that'll be the one that I remember because it's so sudden and so graphic seeming, without ever actually it's like horror movies tend to go straight to blood. It was a no blood kill pretty much, and it was fucking effective. And I like the variance of that. Anyway, I don't want to get hung up on that. Overall, I would say between some of the terrible graphic choices, some of the really, really dated, I don't know, character approaches, like ways of writing characters and the way that they show these characters, the amount of cooters in general, just the style, the 80s style or whatever. And there's a lot of things that you could count against this movie. I like some of that stuff, the 80s stuff, but I can't get behind the graphics. I can't get behind some of the character beats are a little bit tinny to me. They didn't really they didn't add a lot in some cases, but things like the relationship between asshole Sinclair and asshole Jim, something about that worked for me. I liked that, and it kept me engaged in moments that I otherwise would not have been interested in. Overall, I think I enjoyed this movie more than I didn't enjoy it, but it's a pretty goddamn slim margin. So for me, I think it's going to be a 3 out of 5, which I feel like is probably going to be high amongst us, but I guess we'll find out. I mean, to me, it's like this is an example of one of the better drive-in style and level movies that we've reviewed on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's not an absolute gut-bustingly dumb movie in the vein of a Sleepaway Camp or something like that. I know your feelings on that, Rob. I'll leave.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know your feelings. Don't give me
Yes.
that look. And getting the sad puppy eyes about that shit. But it's not that, nor is it it's not Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's not The Thing. It's not one of these, monolithic movies by any stretch. So within that sort of category, I think it does pretty damn well. And I would like to see Joe Bob review this. So that's a pretty good sign for me. I'm going to give it a 3, and I think it's one of those movies that I may never rewatch, but I would, if I did see it again, I wouldn't be it wouldn't be objectionable to me. I would never seek out this movie to watch again, really, but if I did get a chance to see it, or if it was on or whatever, I would probably enjoy it, at least for a while. So I don't know how much more you can glean out of this movie on a second viewing. Probably not a lot. Probably just going to see a lot more glaring issues. So I think it's a one-time view, and it's better than it is bad.
Wait, so what'd you give it?
A 3 out of 5.
Oh, holy shit. That is quite generous.
Juice, how you feel out of 5?
Not good, Bob. Mostly I was disinterested with this movie. Right out the gate, you just not I mean, like, it was entertaining, the opening scene, but it turned me off to everybody. Like, I had a really hard time finding anyone to attach myself or to root for throughout most of this movie. The acting is really stiff. There are a couple, like, the Lloyd's kill scene was definitely the best, and then, like, I guess Mary Beth, like, getting knocked out a window is, like, okay, but just this movie suffers a lot from the time it was made and things they were trying to do that were, like, too complicated for them, I guess, like the slow motion falling out the window. The story doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It really kind of dragged its ass to me. And even if I just step back and take a look at, like, the general premise, it's actually not that interesting to me. Like, playing, like, this haunted Ouija board that's going to possess you or whatever. It's just, like, at first it seemed like a really cheap way to, like, make a ghost movie, because they, like, oh, they kick it out of their lap or whatever, and it's like, oh, it's like the Ouija board is like, or like they throw the knife in the middle of the room and they pour ketchup on it, like, oh, spooky. And I was like, this is dumb, like, to me. Like, it felt like cheap, and, like, and because the characters weren't great, I wasn't super engaged in them, and, like, they can't deliver their lines super well. So, like, there's nothing really, like, pulling me into this movie. Like, I just had a hard time investing my attention into it. So, and then for it to not make sense at the end, for them to not even really have, like, a cohesive idea or story to, like, wrap it all into by the end of it, I was like, damn. I mean, I was really bored with most of it, and there are some, like, okay moments, but I don't want to watch it again. I'm gonna give it a 1 star with a half star for the Yabos, even though it was kind of a weird Yabos scene, but I'll stick by it. It wasn't like rape Yabos or anything, so I'll give it the half star. I don't give half star for the rape Yabos, but I'll give half star for just the regular old Yabos. So 1.5 is where Soju's gonna end up.
Alrighty then. Yeah, this movie for me is most enjoyable when you're getting, like, a healthy dose of camp. I feel like if, like, the tone that is set in that first scene in the movie is, like, exactly what I wanted from the rest of the movie, but you just don't get it consistently. You get, like, flashes of it as the movie goes.
Yeah.
Like when they bring the median in, and you get, like, some camp with that character, and it just, like the ridiculous ending scene, like the editing choices with the unnecessary slow motion and stuff like that. Like, that kind of stuff is what, like, makes the movie stand out to me. But, like, the more serious plot line where we're kind of, like, following Linda as she's, like, finding out that she's pregnant and having these conversations with this, like, little ghosty kid in the living room, it's pretty boring. And then you're, like, following Sinclair and Jim as they're at this library in some random town somewhere, like, looking at news articles about this kid drowning in a lake or something. It's just, when it gets, like, when the plot's really happening, it's just not particularly interesting. There's not a lot of meat on them bones, I guess. But it does have some solid moments. As I mentioned previously, Lloyd is by far my favorite character, and he's unfortunately the first person to get murderized.
In fashion.
Yeah, I wish there was a lot more Lloyd, or just, like, more characters hamming it up like that, which I think...
What, you didn't like the cop?
the detective, yeah, just maybe, like, more of that. I need more magic metaphors.
Really? That's the one I would not agree to.
Yeah, that is.
I need more. This, like I said, is sort of like a stepping stone to Night of the Demons, where you get that full-on camp throughout essentially the entirety of the movie. This one feels kind of half-baked to me. Overall, it's not a terrible movie. A lot of it is sort of negligible. Probably a good one to throw on with some friends to, crack jokes over the top of, or something like that. But I'm going to give it a 2.5, and that's going to put our aggregate at a 2.3.
You guys are quite generous. Better than Suspiria, huh, Bob?
Nope. Let's go ahead and get into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about Witchboard.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, gentlemen. So, for those new to the cast, I'm so sorry. This is our Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I will be looking at the critics and user scores on RottenTomatoes.com. And these two gentlemen will be doing their best to guess between 1 and 100% or 0 and 100% what the scores are, basically. So let's start with our critic score. Now, I want to let you guys know right out of the gate that there is no critic consensus because there are only 14 critical reviews on here. So, what do you guys think? Let's start with Rob this time.
It cannot be very high. Probably lower than our aggregate. 46. Yeah, let's do that. 46. I go with our aggregate. 46.
46. Juice, what are you feeling?
I'll go 35.
35. Okay, Rob's gonna take it. It's actually dead on 50%.
God damn.
To
Wow.
Matometer. So it's seven people were positive and 7 were not. Here's a negative review right here. By and large, Witchboard is a movie I enjoy, but mostly for the nostalgia factor and the fact that Tenney was taking some risks at that particular time in the genre.
What?
I'm not sure what risks they're talking about there.
I
The
don't know about
genre
that.
at 1986?
Yeah, I don't know. While this is somebody else wrote, while by no means top tier horror, it's nonetheless original and amusing. Yeah, I thought it was amusing. Original.
Yeah.
A little bit more often more original than a lot of movies in this particular budget and release bracket. All right, let's go to the audience score. There are 6,868 user ratings for this film. Juice, why don't you start us off out of 100? What do you think?
I think it might be a little higher. 69, me, Randy.
Shoo, comedy number in the books.
Man,
all right,
the fact
Bobby?
that you specifically added Randy on the end of that, like, Randy, you 69.
You do
me.
it.
That's a command.
Give it.
This is unrelated
That's what
to the
I
segment.
want, Randy. I want 69.
Well, who doesn't,
Man.
buddy?
You don't just get 69, you have to also 69. It's a give and take. Anyway, I think it's lower than that.
I just want it.
It's I'll go with 55.
55. And Juice, you said 69, of course. So, Rob, you're going to take it again. You're going to take it again.
Sweep the board.
You would have been much better off labeling us as men of the people because it is 41%. Not too far from your original score.
I thought it might have some nostalgia factor built in there. Apparently not.
I mean, there's some on some level. I mean, that's still 41% positive. That's not great, but yeah. So there you go. That is
I'm
our
curious,
Rotten Tomatoes
Bob,
segment.
when Matt picked this, did he give any kind of context of why? Like, did he say like, "Oh, this is my favorite film growing up," or anything like that?
Later, suckers.
No, not that I recall. It was a little while ago that he chose it, but I don't remember him providing any specific context when he chose it. But if there are any, Matt, call in.
Let us know.
Call in and let us know what you think of this movie. Obviously, you chose it for a reason.
Yeah.
I got to think it's because it's special to you in some way.
Yeah, I hope
would
I
like to
didn't
know
shit on
now.
it too hard, guy. No reflection on you, of course.
My dad's tinny, so thanks.
That would be cool.
That would be cool, except that we would have completely fucked it.
Not really.
We fucked it.
Like a
Nah.
2.3. That's pretty good.
Is it? Is it?
Well,
Is it?
It was pretty good. It was all right. It wasn't great, but it was fine.
But it was fine.
it was fine. Yeah.
It was Chrissy Orlando.
Chrissy Orlando. Do we have any trivia on this one?
I could talk a little bit of trivia.
Ooh.
All right, let's do it.
It's totally time for trivia.
You want me to learn you something, Bob?
No, talk trivia. Stain my brain.
All right. The house in the film that was owned by Carlos originally was also used in the movie Waxwork from 1988
Ah.
and
like
Willard from 1971. I've not seen either of those films.
It's probably on a driving tour of L.A. or some shit. It's probably
Maybe.
it's probably on one of those house tours, haunted house tours.
Tawny, what's her last name? Keaton, whatever.
Yeah.
KTN.
Tawny
I can't remember.
made this
Tawny.
movie first and then made the White Snake music video, which is like infamous, while this film was in post-production. But both were released around the same time. So the music video not only made her famous, but it also helped drive sales for this movie. So this movie got a little bit of a bump from the old White Snake.
Thanks, White Snake.
Thanks. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Thank you. At the time, Tawny was dating O.J. Simpson at the time.
Yeah, there's pictures of her with O.J.
Axe murderer, O.J. Simpson?
Whoa.
She's got a type.
Thank God she made it out alive. So
She has got a type.
So this is something like we were talking about a little bit, but shooting the shower scene.
Shooting the sour scene.
Shooting the shower scene was difficult for Tawny as she felt nervous being totally nude in front of the crew. To make her feel more comfortable, all of the crew except the director and the second camera loader assistant were kicked off set. What?
I thought you were going to say they all were nude as well.
Oh, no.
That would be a great piece of trivia, but holy shit.
So, hang on. So, we're kicked off of set after they had set everything up. But while it made her feel better, it really upset the crew who wanted to hang around and watch.
Jesus.
Hang on, it gets even more fucked up. They shot that scene multiple times from several different angles. So she spent a ton of time naked and wet. During an interview on the Blu-ray release, Bob, you've got this.
Got it.
The interviewer asked the director if she was okay shooting the shower scene, if Tawny was okay shooting the shower scene. Yes and no, he replied. She'd done nudity before, and I think she'd probably done it since. But unlike Linnea Quigley, who has no problem just taking her clothes off and being naked on camera, Tawny made sure it was very close set and was very worried about how she looked. So it took a little longer to shoot her shower scene than it did to shoot Linnea's nude scene. So I guess he's worked with Linnea Quigley before, I guess.
She's in Night of the Demons, yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. All right. So that's a weird, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who could blame her?
No, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be nude in front of a bunch of people.
Especially if they like get all pissed off. They want to hang around and just watch your
What the fuck, Tawny? Why don't you want me to see your titties? Come on.
And the fact they just kept making her shoot it over and over again, it's kind of fucked up. But apparently the crew thought that this house was haunted. On set, they had like a lot of occurrences of like things bumping over, things moving around on set. People felt like the staircase was haunted. They always felt like someone was walking behind them, they would say. And there were numerous occurrences where people could hear whispering and talking from rooms around. So apparently that house is maybe haunted. I don't know, which is kind of cool that they use it in a bunch of different movies.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
There you go.
Cool. Got some trivia.
Hey, you know what we haven't done yet?
What's that?
We haven't hunted for cooters.
We need to hunt.
It's time to go hunting.
Cooter of the week.
All right, boys. We got a long lineup here for the 80s. You know, the era of the cooter. I feel like they were running rampant back in the day. So we need to talk cooter. We need to break down the 5 points. We need to talk
What's
about
a cooter, Juice?
Character type. They have to hit 3 of the 5. We talking smug arrogance, sexual deviancy, manipulation, attire, and overall patheticness. So, who's going to take King Cooter this week, boys? Who's taking the cake?
I mean, right out of the gate, the front runner for me was very obviously Sinclair.
Okay.
And I'm not sure
Yeah.
if I've deviated from that too much. There were a few spots for other people, obviously, and there are certainly people who I think register on the Richter scale of cooters, but
Yeah.
on the sand scale. But yeah, I kind of lean that direction. I want to bring this up again. Jim has a habit of creeping on people. That's not one of our tenets, but I feel like that's a pretty good cooter behavior, pretty clear cooter behavior. I'm not sure what category it falls under.
I guess
or if
it
it's like
depends on who he's
a ghost
creeping on, because
category.
it could fall into sexual deviancy if he was like creeping on a
It's
woman.
true.
That would
But
fall
he's
into
just
that
like walking
category.
up behind people and freaking them out to like an
Yeah,
absurd degree.
Yeah.
He's got a light step. That's all. It's not as
Petite feet. Yeah. So I don't know how to process that particular bit of information, but
So
Jim for
let's
the most
take a
part
look
is
at
just like a
Sinclair.
little bit of a dick. And let's talk about Sinclair. Yeah.
Randy says Sinclair. So I
That's
would
where I'm
like
at
to
right now.
first propose the jade pinky ring for the attire. I mean, that's got to go in that category.
That and
it's got to.
the category 3 mullet that's
Yep.
going on.
Yeah, those combos. Also, he's driving like a really smug ass car. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, it
but-
was an Italian sports car of some
Yeah.
kind. Very, very 80s sports car.
And also his discussion with at the beginning of this film, he's very smug and arrogant for sure. So he's hitting high on the attire. He is
Yeah.
also hitting high on the smug arrogance.
Ugh.
So he needs one more though. He's maybe a little sexual deviancy.
Yeah, because he's like kind of cruising on Linda still.
Yeah.
Not,
Oh yeah,
not
I think that's.
hardcore, but
It's like, oh,
he's
we have to
getting
have
there.
maximum physical contact in order to
Yeah.
make this Ouija. That's an immediate.
And like
Cooter
hitting on
behavior
her
to
like,
me.
oh, you're pure. You don't like drink.
Yeah, that's-
or like that was a
Yes.
little weird. Manipulation.
I mean, I feel like that falls into
guess
the
that's a
same
little-
sexual
yeah, a little
deviance
bit,
category
yeah.
because he's
Mhm.
he's engineered a situation where he can like hit on
touch her,
Linda.
Yeah.
You know,
And then is he pathetic?
I think a little bit in regards to the Linda thing.
The
but
breakup.
I think
He
Yeah.
acts like a whiny bitch about it
Yeah,
sometimes.
he
It's
really
like, dude,
does.
she broke up with you. Because
Yeah,
you know
you're-
what's pathetic? When they're having that conversation, he's like, why did she choose you over me? What is it
Yeah.
about you? And like Jim at least plays it cool. He's like, I make her laugh. And he's like, I made her laugh too. Like, that's pretty
Yeah.
pathetic.
And
That's
then Jim
pathetic.
says,
Jim's classic one-liner,
Yeah.
only in the bedroom.
Only in the bedroom.
which they both laugh at and they bond over his
Ah,
emasculation. And it's
Yeah. So
Let's make out.
Sinclair's definitely got some pathetic moments for sure. So I feel like he's the strongest candidate.
I think so too. I think like he turns out he's not like an evil person, but he's definitely a cooter in my mind.
Which
It's
I
pretty
appreciate. I
undeniable.
like when the cooter's not like the straight up villain.
Yeah,
That's
he's
nice.
like I agree too. Like he's not somebody that I would like list as a favorite person to hang around or anything like that. But I would like by the end of the movie, he's a trustworthy person. Like he doesn't intend to hurt anybody. Like he's just smug as shit and cruising on other men's wives or fiancés or whatever.
Now, one thing is we've talked about the cooter before and how sometimes like you want the cooter to die. Like you want to feel like the killer or whatever in justifying this person's death. Now, Sinclair does die in this movie. How did you guys feel when Sinclair died?
Anticlimactic to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indifferent, really.
Different. Yeah. You weren't happy about it though.
No, I actually,
really.
I probably skewed closer to unhappy that happened because I like the interplay between those characters. So
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen him interact with Linda one more time and make peace with it or do something like that. Like I would just I liked him when he was on camera. I was enjoying myself more often than when he wasn't, I think.
Okay.
So in that respect, that's not a cooter response for me.
Yeah.
That's not a response I would have to a full-blown asshole cooter. But
He maybe had a little arc out of cooterdom a little bit.
Yeah, I think so
because
too.
if
I
he had
think
died like after the party scene, then you'd been like, yeah, fuck
Yeah.
this
Oh
guy.
yeah.
which is where a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of horror movies would have probably ended that character. They wouldn't have even
Yeah.
bothered with the other stuff. It would have just been Jim running around talking to mediums and shit.
Yeah, so we have a
Poor
little,
Lloyd.
little cooter arc there
Yeah.
going on, boys.
They injected something interesting into a character that really by all right at that early stage of the movie didn't deserve it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I think we got him. We got
You
him.
got him.
We got our man.
Put him in the books, boys.
We're gonna get arrested.
Get erected.
We need one of our next projects, since the Bracket of Blood is done. We need to make like a Cooter encyclopedia, and that'll be up on our
A
T
Cooter
Public
trading card
site.
game. Let's go.
Catch them all.
Gotta catch all the Cooters.
Like a
We can
cooter.
battle them.
Yeah.
We can battle them like Pokemon.
Yeah, Bob's gonna go back to all the old episodes and
Oh, Bob's gonna go back. That's what Bob has free time to do. All right, coronavirus stains. I think you can handle this project.
Yeah, you got a lot of time on your hands there, Juice.
I got it.
We can fix that quicker than God makes poor folks.
We should make like an illuminated manuscript of the cooter. Make it
Oh,
real
yeah.
nice, real ornate.
Really
Oh
nice.
yeah.
I'll use my
yeah.
backup stash of gold leaf.
Yeah, your backup, not your primary.
Not my
stash.
primary stash. That's
Your
spoken
back,
for.
your backup.
I cake myself in gold leaf every weekend, and I think I should do
Damn.
What? No
Gold
kink
leaf
shaming.
brandy.
No kink shaming.
Oh, it makes them feel special. We have a voicemail this week. If you're listening and would like to call in and leave us a voicemail, you can do so at 904-638-3231. We have one voicemail this week from Matt. Let's go ahead and hear what Matt has to say.
Hey guys, it's Matt from Jacksonville. I was calling because y'all brought up the Green Knight last week, and I thought that was a pretty well-known story, but my wife had no idea what it was, and it's pretty horror adjacent. A knight, Gawain, loses a bet, and then he has to go on this big journey so a monster can cut his head off. And that between that and the I-24 imagery and soundtrack, it looks like it's going to be pretty eerie. It might actually even be a horror movie, just, in that medieval context. Some of your questions, what candy would I be? I think I'd be a ring pop, because if I'm going to be a snack, I might as well be an accessory too. And what universal monster should get more play? I think a shape-shifting bat creature from outer space that emits pheromones doesn't get enough love, and we should really have more of that. Anyway, y'all have a good week. Can't wait for the next episode. Bye.
Matt's got a very generous take on what qualifies a universal monster.
He loves
universal.
those damn space
Doesn't even have to be the
bats.
same production. Yeah, man. That's a man who loves his space bats. You can say anything about him, but you can't say he doesn't love them.
Yeah.
He really wants to smash himself. That's all we know.
We do know that.
I will say I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get any voicemails to weigh in on as far as advice goes. I was looking forward to give some lifestyle advice. We
Lifestyle.
we opened it up that if you wanted to call the hotline scream and seek our advice, we would tell you how to live.
Why do
your
I have
life.
this? I have this sneaking suspicion that whatever solutions you offer is going to require sending a check to you.
That's not true.
I have a suspicion. You got a real Jim Baker thing going.
I can give good advice. Remember when I told Bob to stop buying so many Blu-rays and save his money? Remember? When
Oh
we
yeah,
wanted to do
you.
that?
Nobody else had anything to do with that.
I
Obviously.
feel like our listeners would prefer the advice coming from Gold Leaf Randy than from Soju.
Yeah, you think
Yeah.
so?
He is a
That's what I
master of
think.
master
I mean,
of
we
advice.
could all
That's
give
true.
our perspectives. It doesn't just have to be me.
Thanks,
It
Justin.
doesn't.
Justin
It
gave us
doesn't
permission to
just have
speak,
to.
Rob. Isn't that nice?
Wow, that's really wild.
Really cool. Really
Wow.
great. Great.
Cool, cool,
Great.
Cool. Well, thanks for calling in, Matt. Yeah, that Green Knight story, the trailer looks pretty dope. I had never heard of that story before.
Yeah, me neither.
Me neither. Yeah, that's news to me.
Yeah,
it's
so
not a common thing, Matt. So give your wife a
Yeah.
little bit of a break.
you just assume he's really like laying into her. You never heard of the Green
Well, he was
Knight?
like, I thought
You're
it
a
was like
fucking
a
idiot.
Married you.
common thing, and my wife didn't know. It's like, no, that's
Damn.
not super
Just
common. out
one
there.
more reason to smash myself.
Man, If we could clone, you'd be so out on your ass, babe.
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 Uh,
Babe.
That's
No,
so-
babe.
Babe.
No. Babe. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We might, if that is like a straight up horror movie, it's coming out from May 24th. It might be, but it's hard to tell from the trailer currently. If it is a horror movie, maybe we can work it into our schedule this year. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
See what it
Also,
ends
like
up
to
looking like.
lose, like the story he was telling, like that kind of sucks to lose a bet to go find a demon to cut your head off or to cut the
Yeah.
demon's head off.
Sounds like he's supposed to go die because he lost.
Yeah. But that's like a
Yeah.
long journey to die
Yeah.
Well,
over a
just
bet.
Tell it to
That's why you
Frodo,
don't
man.
bet.
Jesus.
Yeah. Gambler. See, we can give good advice. Don't gamble.
Guys. Our good advice is like fucking
First one's free.
archaic, puritanical shit. Now, just think of the children. Don't gamble, and if you touch yourself, people die.
And you go blind.
You go
Damn.
blind, you get hairy palms, you break out, and then you die.
Harry Potter.
You never heard that one?
I have. Yeah, it's
Okay.
just such a ridiculous note.
It is. It's dude.
little
If that were
extra friction,
true,
baby.
then male pattern baldness would be a thing of the past because you could just
just
self-apply.
Just rub it in.
That's good advice.
And that's good.
See, we give good advice.
Free
Jizz
taste.
on your own head. That is our advice here on Straight Chilling.
Yeah,
Yep,
he
and
needs
Bob-
spiritual guidance.
Yeah, Bob won't let us interfere anymore into his Blu-ray life, so we need somebody else to fix. Help us out here.
Somebody make yourself our project.
Bob
We have no
failed
time
to
for
listen to our
self-reflection.
advice, and his life is in shambles. So we're looking to fix somebody else now.
Like my whole
We
life.
can fix that quicker than God makes poor folks.
We sure
Yeah,
can.
we
Shambles.
sure can.
Well, call in and leave your voicemails at 904-638-3231. That's going to do it for us this week here at Straight Chilling. Another big thanks to Matt for choosing this movie for us to talk about over on Patreon. And also, if you're in the market for some really dope ceramic goods, Matt makes dope ceramics. I recently posted a picture of this really nice coffee mug that he made us with our Straight Chilling logo on it. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, bam, there it is.
YouTube
That's what it looks
exclusive.
I want to, yeah.
YouTube exclusive.
Let's make it perfectly
Um,
clear that when you say dope ceramics, we're not talking about paraphernalia. We're talking
Right.
about really
I mean,
cool ceramic
I could-
goods.
I could smoke weed out of that coffee mug if I really
I mean,
wanted
yeah, if you really wanted to. It
Sure.
to.
was really in a hard place about having to smoke some weed right away.
If you want anything made out of ceramic material, hit Matt up. He's got an Instagram. It's Matt Garrett Ceramics.
Around here, that means big money.
Garrett. Check him out. Show him some love. He does good work. Buy his.
Yeah, that's
Stuff
a
and
fucking
things.
awesome mug, and I
Yeah.
can't believe
Yeah.
that somebody was inspired to ceramics because of what we do. That's
Yeah.
insane.
It's really
Yeah.
good. I
I
hope
mean, it really
Bob
makes you
doesn't.
question Matt's sanity a little bit, but
I hope Bob doesn't pawn it for Blu-rays. So we'll
I mean,
see.
it's on its way out the door as we speak.
Yeah.
That shit's
I've
on
already sold
eBay.
I already
Uh,
sold it. Yeah, it'll be in the mail tomorrow.
As soon as you're done smoking that weed, it's gone.
Yeah, big thanks to Matt. Next week, we got a new show coming out. We're talking about The Invisible Manga. So get your cheeks in the seats.
Not
watch it.
not the
get ready
pole
for next
pick
week.
one. The new one.
No.
We need,
No.
it was up
2020.
for
Not the-
grabs. Yeah.
Not the old busted model, the new hotness model.
That hot,
In the
sexy
vein of
Lee
the amazing Tom Cruise mummy. Right, Tom?
Too much power. You can't set yourself up for the joke.
I
Right,
sure can.
Tom.
Oh my
I sure
God.
can. That's all I'm doing.
Too-
Like 45% of this podcast is setting up my next bit.
Too much power. Way too much. So until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling. We're on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join our Slack channel, where we talk about the movie of the week, talk about music, TV shows, Justin's YouTube stuff and things. just let us know on any one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can join in on the Slack daily conversations.
Well, 1 second. Did we slap our ass for Bo?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, all right. I'm losing my mind.
You hit
Sorry.
the wrong
Randy
bump at first, and it was kind of funny, and then
Randy just wants to slap some more ass.
Is it cool if we slap one more ass?
Sure. Do the
All
God.
right.
Slap my ass!
All right, we're good.
Oh, God.
We're good.
Way too much power for Randy. Damn.
I think I've proven I can't handle it, and that's great.
We can't just hand out ass slaps. They have to be earned. God, there's a
I feel like I
system in
earned an
place.
ass slap.
No. Gold Leaf Randy over here is out of control.
Slap my golden ass.
Oh man, that's gonna do it for us. So until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, TTFN.
Boo.